Flash is coming up at the top of staircase. There's an easy kill for Hyper, and a second and a third. Dark Zero in full control. A triple for Grixer, and there's the quad. United.
Great teamwork. Sonics take the lead again. Disrupt the best of the best.
His teammate's gone, and what's this? He's got a Nitro Shout as well.
TSM!
Tempo Storm absolutely storms through this matchup. Oxygen takes the series.
Spacestation Gaming are your world champions!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the NA Qualifier. I know you're used to seeing Jackie, and I definitely miss her, but today I'm going to be a desk host. My name is Veli, and I'm here with a new face and a veteran of this season, of course. Jesse, man, you first. How are you feeling today, and how excited are you for the games that are about to go down?
Veli, I'm so excited. I mean, we've got a huge weekend ahead of us full of really highly important games. And then, of course, working the desk with my favorite Challenger League caster that didn't go on to be a social media manager for Disrupt Gaming. We've got a fantastic weekend ahead of us.
All right, so I'm gonna dedicate this time to you right now. Caliber Jacob, welcome to the desk first off. I've seen you on YouTube. I've seen you doing Challenger League. I'm gonna give this time to you to introduce yourself to the stream, and how ready are you for this weekend?
See, it's a lot of pressure, man, but North American Qualifier is probably the best place you could have asked me to step in. I'm also ecstatic to be back on the desk with this dude Jesse over here. We haven't had this kind of magic since CL all the way back, I think it was March or April. I am so absolutely ecstatic to be on the desk with you two, but I do kind of have to suffer through your presence for the next like 10 hours or so. I don't know if I'd wish that on anybody.
You're gonna love it, man. But listen, we have a lot of great things to talk about. We have some amazing games that are about to go down today, but before we jump into the nitty gritty, first, some word from our sponsors. Alright, welcome back, and here goes the bracket. These are the 4 teams that will be playing in the qualifier for the NA Major this weekend. You have your world champs in Spacestation Gaming. You have the Canadians best and Mirage facing off against them in the first matchup of the day. I'm really excited about that. But then this one, Sonics versus Disrupt Gaming, 2 teams that a lot of people believe they're legitimately a top 4, top 5 team, and we're gonna find that out this weekend if they can make it to the end. But first things first, let's talk about our first matchup. Listen, we're talking about the world champs, and even though they aren't on top at the moment, we know they're good. They know that they're gooder than good because they're great, and that was not too long ago. Jacob, what makes this team special, and how do you think they'll take advantage of that in this first matchup?
I mean, they've got the easier match coming into this. We know the Canadian division as a whole probably doesn't stack up to the rest of the United States division as of yet. So for SSG, they really did pull the easy card because the number 4 seed in the qualifier automatically has to play that Canadian team. It does mean for Mirage it's a much tougher task, but since SSG has kind of been on the down low a little bit recently, this is probably the best thing they could have asked for to start this qualifier.
Yes, and listen, we're talking about the world champs. We're talking about the most clutch player in stage 1, which is Bosco. We're talking about good old Canadian. Jesse, we've been watching Spacestation Gaming this season, and they haven't been the SSG that we're used to seeing, and to be completely honest, it's been a bit underwhelming. We've seen Rampy at the bottom of the leaderboards, and that was for stage 2. That's not what we were used to seeing compared to stage 1. What do you think is happening with this roster?
I mean, it's a slump, right? There's no other way to say that. I think that Rampy in their most recent matchup is the most obvious example of this slump.
Yeah.
You know, against TSM, he really wasn't finding any success on those roams. His flanks were kind of impactless. Rampy was just not having a good time, and this is the invitational MVP we're talking about. We expect this guy to perform every single match. The fact that he's really not showing up in that crucial game against TSM is really a red flag for Space Station. We'll pull up his stats now. He's done okay for the season overall, but it's just that last tail end where he really did fall off. He can't have a game like like that again. And I talked to Lycan a little bit about how they're going to pull themselves out of that slump. The first thing is some playstyle differences. Now, I'm not allowed to talk about what these playstyles are going to be before map 1. After map 1, I'll break it down for everybody. Pay attention, see if you can figure it out for yourself. I'll break it down after map 1 what the changes are going to be. And then the second thing that's going to pull them out of this slump is that they've been losing. And there's nobody on this team that likes to lose. They're going to be really fired up to win this qualifier.
Now, with that graphic up, Jesse, I wanted to interrupt you, but it was really beautiful where you were saying the one thing we have to notice with Rampy was a 41 opening kills. That is so big because he's such a fireball for this team, and he seems to get the ball rolling. But let's talk about Mirage. And I know you're happy about this, Jesse. As the Canadian expert, I know you want to see this team cause an upset. But before we jump into this team, the lovely Jess, she sat down and had a few words about Mirage. Well, actually, no, let's talk about this team first. Take a look at Flynn. Oh, I'm sorry about that. There was a video. Let's see what Jess had when she had a sit down with Mirage.
What's up, folks? I'm Jess Brohard, and I'm here with Flynn from Mirage. We're going to be chatting a little bit about the North American qualifiers. So, Flynn, first off, congratulations. You have once again qualified for the major. This is the second time this season. You did this both in Stage 1 and Stage 2. So, how are you feeling overall about your performance in this stage as compared to last stage?
Well, I think we came in with a goal, with a mindset of being the best team in Canada, and I think we've done that. We've set that record straight, and it was about parlaying that kind of record and that kind of reputation into some kind of international success. So the NA qualifier obviously is our perfect opportunity to showcase what we have against the best of the best in North America and try and put ourselves on that same kind of stature.
It's definitely an honor to have made it this far, but unfortunately in Stage 1 at the qualifiers, of course, you fell a little short. Kind of what's your plan here to try and come out and qualify this time?
I think we learned a lot, honestly, from the North American qualifier between just being able to grind for the schedule. Obviously, there were some changes this time around, but just being present all day and putting that much energy into every single game, you know, it gets taxing, and the longer the days go on, just the stronger mentally you have to be, not only as an individual, but with the whole team. And, you know, we took a lot of learning experiences from the games we played against those teams. You know, we got a shot against all three. We came away victorious against Tempo Storm and felt pretty good about that. And even taking a map off the Sonics, you know, was something that we didn't want to rest our laurels on, but it was something to feel prideful for, and it's a strong point for us to try and transition some of that success into this future North American qualifier with some different teams this time. And yeah, the reigning world champions off rip should be a fun way to start it.
That's exactly the next thing I was going to ask. Is, you know, you're facing the Sonics again, which nothing new to you. You guys faced them in the Stage 1 North American qualifiers, but then we have these two other teams as well. We have SSG and Disrupt, and your first matchup is going to be SSG. So where's your head at? How are you feeling about that being your first matchup?
I mean, as crazy it is to say, we're feeling pretty good. I mean, we wouldn't rather be anywhere else, and I think we learned a lot from that game against Dark Zero too. I think we went in with a game plan to try and make them feel uncomfortable, and plan A didn't work, and we didn't have a plan B. We didn't have a plan C, and I think this time around, the preparation and just the practice being put in, the effort being put in to try and make sure that we're more flexible. We obviously know that SSG and Troy, very specifically, they like to counter strat. They like to play off what you do and try and manipulate you. So our goal heading in, not only against SSG, but every team, is just remain unpredictable and make sure you never know what's coming next.
Well, it sounds like you have your head in the right place. You know what you need to do to prepare, and so hopefully you can make it happen this time. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me, and best of luck this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, Jess. I really appreciate it.
It is always good to see Flynn on camera, but it's going to be better when we see him in game. I don't know if it's going to be fun seeing him play off against the boys on Mirage, but Jesse, you know what? Let's be completely honest. With them being in the Canadian League, we don't hear too much about the team, and we don't see enough love for them. Now, you know a lot about this, Ross, because you're close with these players, but I'm going to be quite honest. There are some sleepers on this team, like players like Quartz, and they definitely stand out when the moment's called for it. This isn't a sleeper team just because they're in the Canadian League. We saw them do work last qualifier. Why do you believe that they actually might have a chance against Space Station, the world champs?
Well, listen, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? They're playing in the Canadian division. They don't have that same level of competition they're going up against. Their practice and their experience is not going to be as grand as what we see in the US division. But it also means they don't have to go all out. You know, when Mirage plays a team like Livid, they don't have to bust out the strat book and really like dig deep into that. They can kind of take it easy, and that means that a lot of their strategies are still yet to be seen. I was talking with Flynn just a couple of days ago, and he said that over 50% of their strats that they've come up with over the last few months have never been shown on broadcast. That is a huge advantage, especially going up against a prep-heavy team like SSG. You know, Forceful, their coach, he's a smart guy. They're in a Moose in Saskatchewan that could outsmart him, okay? So I really do think they've got a good chance if they can bust out some of those creative strategies, play a little bit wild, play a little bit crazy, and they've got, they've got some tricks up their sleeves, I'm sure, they can bring to SSG.
All right, Jacob, we all saw that long, well thought out answer by Jesse, but I'm gonna keep it straight up with you, and I want you to be real with me, okay?
Sure.
Let's be real. The Canadians, Mirage, do they have what it seriously takes to cause an upset against Space Station? Let's be honest with with ourselves for a second.
I mean, if we're being honest, I don't think that the Canadian division as a whole has gotten to a stage where it is comparable to what the United States division is. Hopefully at some point it can get there. It just takes a lot of time for that region, being 4 teams less than the United States division, to have enough comparable talent and enough comparable teams on an international level. The nice thing that I like about this matchup is the fact that for North America, it's literally the closest thing that we're going to have to standard international play. It's 4 Americans plus the Canadian against 4 Canadians and 1 American. It's the closest thing that we're ever going to see. I just don't think that so far from the progress that we've seen made from Mirage, they can be a spearhead for Canada, but they also weren't able to beat Dark Zero in their last qualifier or the Sonics all the way in the lower bracket for the August major. I don't think at this stage in the game that they've really still got what it takes. Even though I inherently root for the underdog, it's just not quite there yet for me.
Okay, Jacob, let's be completely honest. We've seen E United get better. We've seen Disrupt Gaming, Sonics, propel upwards. You don't think Mirage could have that same effect?
Mirage isn't in a category of teams that are nearly as high caliber with everyone else in the US division. I don't see it yet.
All right, well, you know what? They have to prove it to us against Spacestation Gaming first, but the first part of the battle is always going to be the map ban phase. So coming up soon, we're going to see what the vetoes are, and we will see where these teams will face off. And Jesse, you're the expert here, man. Take it away.
All right, 2 popular maps, Oregon and Villa off the bat. There's Coastline. So this has historically been a really successful map for Space Station. Mirage are technically undefeated in the NAL on this map, but they've only played Tempo and Altiara so far. Then we get Cafe, picked up by Mirage. This was probably their strongest map in Stage 1. They haven't played it at all in Stage 2, though, so they've probably got some things up their sleeves hidden for this map. I'm sure they prep for it. Space Station, they like this map, but their last 2 results particularly have been really poor. And then we get Consulate. Mirage have played it once. It was a 7-5 against Tempo Storm, but it's not been a good map for Space Station historically. They usually ban Consulate. They had an alright match against TSM somewhat recently here, so honestly, not a bad pool for Mirage. I think they're happy to see Cafe. I think they're happy for Consulate, and Coastline's not that bad for them.
Now, we heard from the Canadian Jacob, my American boy. Us Americans, we have to stand strong, right? Look at these maps. Coastline, Cafe, Consulate. This looks like it could go down the wire, man. What are your thoughts about this? Do you think Space Station has this in the bag?
I think, yeah, it still definitely reinforces that they were prepared for Mirage coming in. They went to Coastline and opted not to go for Clubhouse, which we all know is SSG's home ground. That is their turf. They will defend that until the bitter end, and they don't lose it very often, but they went for Coastline instead, presumably because there's a little bit more tape on Mirage, and they've won that map. They've been, historically, I believe it's 100% win rate for Mirage over the course of the Canadian division. They do not lose Coastline. SSG decided to take Mirage to a map that they know well, rather than one that SSG has historically done great on. So that's probably the more intriguing thing for me, and we're opening it up with Coastline, so this should already be a banger.
All right, so this is going to be the most fun to me right now. And Jesse, I'm going to have you wait for just a second. Jacob, what do we know you as when it comes to predictions?
Oh boy. Well, they say it's a curse, they say it's superstition, but like it or not, I do have a tendency to prevent some teams from going anywhere. Okay. So.
All right. So before you go on, because we have to move this along, we're getting map 1 ready right now. When it comes to predictions, you have the world champs versus Canada's best. Who do you have winning this, and what's going to be the map count?
I just want to remind you very briefly, if chat is aware of what I do to teams, and I'm pretty sure they are, Twitter's aware as well. What I'm about to say may very well get me crucified by a good portion of the competitive community. I'm already aware of what's about to happen, but if you're asking me honestly, I don't see any possible way with the current state of the game, even though SSG is on a slump and Mirage has proven to be a very strong team in Canada, being undefeated in their division, I don't see it happening. This should be a very easy mercy killing. SSG 2-0.
2-0. Wow, no faith in the boys in Canada. Jesse,
None.
he's disrespected. He's disrespecting your
None.
region right now. How are you feeling when it comes to predictions?
Listen, for my sake, I kind of hope the curse is real for Canada's sake, but I'm personally not too big into all of that. So I'm going to also go with Space Station Gaming. You know, I think that both teams are going into this matchup with an awareness of what's on the line, right? I think Mirage are going into it knowing that they have a chance, and I think Space Station, they're aware of that too. They're not going to just throw this game away. They know that this is a team that can beat them. I don't think they're going to let it get that far. I talked to Lycan, he said it's important that we play our game. If we play ours and they play theirs, we'll come out on top. And I talked to Flynn, he said, you know what? We just can't let Space Station play their game. So that's going to be the battle that goes on. I have faith in the world champions, but who knows? If they start slipping, Mirage could easily take advantage of that.
We'll find out. And for those of you at home, yes, the game, everybody's almost ready in the lobby. Trust me, if we could start the game now, we could. But Jesse, before we jump into socials and toss it to the casters in the break, who on Mirage do we need to keep our eyes on? This is a team that not a lot of people watch over in Canada, and I feel like they're missing out.
All right. Big player you're going to watch out for is Quartz. Sledge main, really high impact player, gets all the frags that he can. Not loading is also an incredible player. American, so an asterisk on it, but still does fantastic work for his Canadian team. There's some really good players on Mirage you don't want to sleep on.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, now it's almost time to pass the casters. Before I do that, I'm gonna need you to help me out with a small favor. Make sure you follow our socials, it's gonna be coming up below. That way you can be involved in the polls that we have on Twitter. You can watch the match highlights, and also you can stay informed with everything in the Rainbow Six Siege universe, according to esports. But first things first, the first matchup of the day is just about ready, and I'm gonna toss this over to my favorite casters, along with Blue and stuff. So I like them too. They are right. But Kix and Parker, they're really nice, right? Kix and Parker, take it away.
Well, thank you so very much. That's greatly appreciated. Veli, you did a bang up job and only messed up a couple times, but that's fine. We'll get over it. Who would have thought, Michael, that Caliber Jacob would have been flawless and Veli would have made the error? Newbie, right?
I mean, I think they did a great job on their first time being on that particular desk. It's nice to see everybody, getting comfortable, getting ready, and yeah, in the qualifiers, this is an appropriate time.
No, absolutely. For anybody that thinks that we're being serious, we are. In fact, actually, I've only ever been serious. We have never made a single joke on this broadcast.
Never.
Now, if you look at these two teams, I think Jacob's analysis was brutal, but probably somewhat correct. He said this would be a mercy killing for Space Station. Mirage was able to beat Tempo Storm in the previous qualifiers, but that was a largely insignificant matchup between them. So when you look at this match, I gotta say, SSG are coming in, and there's two thoughts for me. Either one, they're going to hit the ground running and they're going to be great, or number two, they're going to exhibit the same struggles that they've shown so far through this stage. Now, good news for them is that they're going to be playing up against, I would argue, the weakest team so far in these qualifiers. So if you're going to have to shake off some of those cobwebs and work out the rust, this is probably your best chance for Space Station, and I'm not sure if you would agree.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. Right now, Mirage are certainly the underdogs, and so yeah, as also mentioned by Jesse, they have the least to lose going into this. Maybe we'll see them do something crazy. Speaking of the community poll, you get to decide for us who's going to win this match by telling us who will win, Canadian or the Canadians. So you go ahead and make sure to vote for that one on R6 Esports NA on Twitter. Give it a good old check out, and we'll click. You can do it. I believe in you. Yeah, there's not a lot of pressure on Mirage. I think that, and I've mentioned this before, when you're playing with no pressure, you really do kind of feel a weight lifted from your chest. So maybe that'll be the edge that they have going into this.
Well, speaking of going into this, let's waste no time. This might be one of the fastest from the moment we went live to we're actually in the game, but we got a long day ahead of us, and we know that you want to watch the matches. So let's load in. Half of this lobby is Canadian. Not loading on Mirage is American. Canadian, unsurprisingly, on Space Station, Canadian. So 5 Canucks 5 Yanks. They're going to smash their heads against each other. And starting off with SSG on defense. For those of you that are keeping track at home and may not have seen this on the map ban screen that was up when the analyst desk was on, Space Station will be starting all 3 maps on defense. Mirage, therefore, will be starting all 3 on attack. And if overtime is required, Mirage will be defending on every overtime. The maps, of course, are Coastline Cafe and Consulate. The operator bands, as you see above, are Ace, Nomad, Valkyrie, and OMI. Good luck, have funs in the chat. This is where you join in, viewers. Let's get things underway with our first qualifier match of the day.
GLHF. So the bans are complete. Ace is, I mean, you got that ranged hard destruction. Obviously, on Coastline, you want to get rid of that. In the past, it was Habana, but Ace is just a little bit more prevalent these days. A little bit more versatile as hard destructors go. That doesn't mean Habana is going to be in play, and you need to bring a counter to that if you're going to go to Hookah. Fultz will 6-pick into that counter. It'll be the mute. You'll expect at least 2 of those mute jammers on the main bar wall. That'll prevent the Habana Excaros detonating on the wall and, well, playing on that bar being rendered completely impossible. The rest of the bans are nothing too surprising. Wamai, I think, is a typical ban these days because there's just so much for the attackers to chew through, and banning either Jaeger or Wamai is generally sensible. You ban the Wamai over the Jaeger because the Wamai can also bring a shield, which is right now probably, well, arguably the most powerful secondary gadget in the game. So get rid of that. Nomad allows for runouts. Valkyrie prevents runouts. I guess Mirage are kind of trying to play both angles and make each jagged edge a little bit duller.
Deployable shields have been talked up quite a bit, obviously since their changes where they got those slats, making them semi-portable mirror windows. Obviously not to the same effectiveness or capacity as the mirror windows will give you. Line of sight is obviously reduced, but you can play off of it a bit more freely than you can any mirror windows or any other intel that presents itself. So you can see Space Station are going to put it to good effect. It's over on the coastline door. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat.
What's his name?
And it was Canadian, Thinking Nade, and Bosco all playing off of it. Obviously, seeing that shield. A lot of teams do like to directly attack that hookah balcony, as this is, of course, a hookah billiards defense. But no, Mirage will be starting over on Penthouse and Theater. And just was pointed out by the analyst, Quartz is somebody to watch out for. So is Silent. Silent, Quartz, and Loading tend to be the 3 players from Mirage who can stack up against the best of them. A bad day for either of those 3 players, or even 2 of them, could spell the end of an early run for Mirage. So we'll see what they can do together as the mobile drone heads in. And both Zilchi and Silent being guided in by this Yana. Nobody's in any line of sight except for Canadian, but Rampy starts things off with a Nitro Cell onto Silent. Down goes the Zofia. There wasn't much HP on the Zofia to begin with. There's even less now, and Bolt's down below too with the Nitro Cell in hand. There could be a nice 1-2 punch here from Space Station.
No immediate response from Mirage. They get C4'd from below. Do not go frag hunting, and well, they'll get C4'd from below again. And this is due to SSG, I guess, being aware that no one from Mirage is going to try and counter that below play. Bosco will shoot the pellets off that single wall. Zilchi eats a lot of damage from the Alda of Canadian as he takes down one of his own. Mirage are starting to struggle here on this Aqua take. Well, I guess it's really the end throws, the death throws, I guess you could say, for Mirage, as they've got a 2v5 ahead of them. Make that a 1v5. Flynn does get a kill as he vaults over the bar, but it's not going to matter in the end.
Was Flynn the only person on his team to get a kill?
Yes.
They are immediately calling for a rehost, so we're gonna get one. This is our daily rehost, match rehost, whatever you want to call it. And it's hilarious because Flynn's the only person on his team who gets a kill, and now it's gone because when they rehost, he's gonna be back at 0.
We'll just pretend that nobody did and keep it simple. Very few stats lost there for Mirage, but yeah, our first rehost of the day, and it comes quite early. You could see some of the exasperation there on SSG's faces. I think we all share the sentiment, but that's the one that you get to call for the map already used up for Mirage. And I gotta say, I think that's a really poor time to have a rehost. You know, we always talk about how these rehosts can help you plan around what you're getting from your opponent, and not a lot was gotten from either team. So not much to talk about for the squads, and they'll probably just reset.
The one question I have to ask is, what intel? Was it an evil eye cam that SSG was playing off of inside of Office? Because 2 Nitro cells from Office, both connecting with their targets, pretty good precision, I would say. But from where I saw the evil eyes, I didn't know exactly if they were lined up to spot the 2 players from Mirage. So I wonder what they were playing off of. Maybe just sound. Maybe they've just obviously done their research. I'm not entirely sure, but I wonder if you had any speculation as to what you think it could have been.
Well, they did have that hookah evil eye that was placed so you can see both VIP Hall and Aqua. But as you said, it barely saw Aqua.
It only sees a sliver. It only sees about the doorway of Aqua.
My guess is the same as yours. I think it was based on 2 things. 1, sound, and 2, a general understanding of where about the center of Aqua is, relative to Office. Because both of those C4s detonated around the same place, and they were just about like between the bar and the double door, which is where most attackers are going to be when they're challenging from Aqua to Billiards. So I think it was just the awareness on SSG and their experience, their knowledge of, okay, if there's an attacker in Aqua, if I can hear them stomping around above, it's probably about here. And they were right 2 times in a row.
Yeah, there's not a lot of places inside of the Aqua room that you can be where a Nitro cell isn't going to hit you, especially if you take the standard path, which is just the luggage doorway up to the double doors leading into Billiards. That almost L-shaped path that everybody is going to take. Yeah, Nitro cell is going to be able to fell just about anybody in that area. And I mean, it could have even been worse for them because the members of Mirage were stacked up in that particular spot. Now, after Silent goes down, you said there was no response, but other than just vaulting through Courtyard, nobody from Mirage would have been able to go down there and deal some significant damage to them. I think the greater issue was that Mirage's interest in that bomb site was very straightforward. I don't think they even bothered to look on that portion of the first floor, which obviously was their undoing. 2 kills coming from that exact same spot. And you didn't drone it out. It didn't look like you had intel on it. It didn't look like you had any awareness of them playing down there. And you have to expect that there's going to be somebody playing in or around that part of the map. Because A, you can go for runouts. You can play from below. There's a lot of different things that defenders can do to antagonize you as an attacking team. And it was kind of surprising that nobody from Mirage bothered to figure it out first.
Well, Mirage's strategy there was twofold. 1, they knew they wanted to do an Aqua take, and 2, they wanted to have the VIP angle up so that they could cut off rotation. That's their whole setup. It was very rigid and it was very strategic, and that's why SSG played so heavily below. That's why they played those double C4s, is because SSG knows that, yeah, Mirage is going for a VIP Aqua, but they're not going to have that third prong of downstairs presence. They're not going to clear out Office because it takes too much time. And so that's great awareness from SSG to exploit the weakness of Mirage's strategy. But alas, it did give us a rather one-sided round. So hopefully we'll see Mirage be able to counter that live as we go back into this match. The score will remain 1-0 for SSG. Nothing changes about that. And we'll go ahead and give Mirage their second attack round. This time,
yes, Michael, alas.
Alas, what?
Oh, just the way you said it when you're alas.
I like to see
the end is nigh.
Competitive siege, Parker.
Have you been reading any Mark Twain recently, Michael?
I have not.
Any Charles Dickens, Michael?
Neither.
Was it the best of times?
I don't know
and
that.
Was
reference.
it the worst of times?
Don't know it. I'm assuming they made you read this in high school, but not me.
10 seconds to go.
I don't remember what they made me.
Term Tale of Two Cities. Come on.
Okay. I don't know it. Should I read it? I will read it if you tell me to read it.
I think A Tale of Two Cities is a classic. I think so.
All right, I'll write it down.
And this right now is a tale of two teams. One team coming out of the Canada division, one team coming out of the US division, and Space Station has a 1-round lead. This is SSG's map. Something to keep in mind here as well. We do tend to see that script get flipped. Mirage ends up winning SSG's map. SSG ends up winning Mirage's map. Wouldn't really surprise me that much with the way that teams have been playing recently. But also, I don't know if Mirage has it in them to be able to take a map off of SSG in their current focus. It's going to be a very large task, and I think a lot of it will hinge on the early rounds here on Coastline. Because if Mirage gets bogged down mentally, it could be a major problem for them. Now, they've brought some tools to assist them. They had Zilchi on Jackal. They've now put him on Dokkaebi. It's going to be a bit of a similar operator, but not exactly the same. And, well, we knew that with Ace being banned, Hibana would be a constant here for this round. Won't be the case. Flynn gets gunned down by Rampy, but Thinking Nade blown up by Quartz. Well played out by the sledge inside of Penthouse. It's a kitchen defense with most of the action at the moment occurring above the bomb site. Another member of Mirage falls at the hands of Canadian, and the remaining 3 are inside of Penthouse. A Nitro Cell would prove to be quite destructive at the moment. But what it's going to allow Mirage to do is continue to take up ground and then work that soft destruction as both Loading and Silent work their way towards the main lobby stairs.
Canadian going to be the one to confront this push on the main lobby stairs. He was also upstairs early in the round, able to get that kill, do some work for his team. The Yana clone coming in handy here for Loading and giving the call that, yes, indeed, Legion is directly confronting the White Staircase. This is not an easy challenge for either player, the attacker or the defender. It's an awkward angle. The nade will try to give it the advantage to the attack, but Canadian wins the fight as Silent drops. Not so silently. Quartz and Loading now. In the 2v4, they still have to get main lobby control. Nice pre-fire there from Loading, but he misses the shot. He knows where Canadian's going to be challenging, though, and that's going to be ever-present in his mind as he attempts to push closer to the site. Quartz needs to play above because why else would you have those angles, which means Loading is alone with the diffuser in this main lobby. The lack of manpower is seriously crippling here for Mirage.
I think this is the right call from Loading, though, Michael. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to get tied down trying to duel Canadian in security while Quartz is a mile away? No, I think you have to try to begin to aggress this bomb site, and obviously doesn't work out for Loading. Rampy and Canadian, 2 huge rounds. That's a long-range kill from Rampy. Certainly looked like it was going to go Canadian's way. 2 kills for Rampy, 2 kills for Canadian, 1 kill for Fultz. The boys are in on the action. Space Station finds their 2nd round in a row. And again, the entry from Mirage gets foiled by Space Station. The previous round, it was more just that Mirage didn't do their homework. They didn't understand that even though you have map control on that 2nd floor, it does not mean that you have proper control of that part of the map, because if there's a Nitro Cell below, you lose that map control. You need to ensure that you have the proper foundation. And funny enough, it was Space Station that was down below in that round. It was the roam from Rampy that went sight unseen and caught Mirage off guard. They quickly refragged it, but Canadian had pushed up aggressively. And what we do see from a lot of teams when they defend kitchen and storage is that they will play out of the back of theater with a rotation that allows for one of the defenders to easily escape down to the main lobby. That was the path that Canadian took. Now, if Thinking Nade had gotten out alive, instead of getting blown up by a grenade, it's very likely that he would have either gotten a pick or 2, or when the alarm bells were sounded, he also would have escaped with Canadian to the main lobby, trying to waste as much time as is humanly possible. And of course, when you're playing in the main lobby, if you don't have to worry about getting pressured from any of the entry points, a Nitro Cell can also work quite effectively. Obviously, Thinking Nade and Canadian were not primed with Nitro Cells, so there's not much they could have done in that regard. Overall, a pretty solid round from SSG, where Mirage just seemed to be constantly running up against a brick wall every single time they tried to take even the slightest inch from SSG.
Well, Parker, I have acquired A Tale of Two Cities.
Did you just buy it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I could have just lent you my copy of it when I see you next in 2027.
It's okay. I like books. Let's see now if Mirage can acquire a round win. It's looked not so ideal so far. It's almost as if like everything that Mirage attempts to do is either directly confronted by SSG or subverted in some way, whether it be okay, a top floor roam clear from Mirage, like what they're doing right now. simply being countered by C4 from below. Or, you know, again, the alternative being SSG just takes the fight, which appears to be the plan for Fultz, but he'll actually fall back. I thought he was going to go straight for it. But the drone will dissuade him of that brazen play.
I do wonder if there's a concerted effort from SSG to maybe try to take an early engagement. If it doesn't work out, peel off, because you know that Mirage are going to need to take some time to cut through your defenses. I mean, no doubt that Mirage are prepared and have obviously studied this, but I'm going to probably give the nod here to SSG in terms of which team is better prepared for these basic attacks, these basic setups that you see and so on. And well, you can't really prep for an attack the same way you can for defense. You can prep for both, but typically your hard work is going to be done when you're defending, as you know where they're going to come from. And on attack, you know how these defensive setups tend to be. For Mirage, they are taking their sweet time as there's a standoff with Silent inside of Kitchen as we now look towards the final minute of action. And Silent is waiting for somebody to just peek around the corner, but nobody is going to give Silent an engagement at all. His cross is held by Thinking Nate on Cool Vibe stairs, with Fultz still patrolling above. Rampy's up there too. That leaves just Bosco and Canadian on site. Overall, it's a pretty decent spread for SSG, and Canadian gets peeked by Quartz. That was well played, well timed as a flash of gun in from Flynn.
That's going to be Flynn, though, down on the window to Sunrise. Fultz playing above. Zilchi also dies to Thinking Nate down in the site, and while Mirage try to execute, the bodies are starting to fall. A little bit of damage done to Thinking Nate, so it's not all lost here from Mirage. There's still a chance. First gas canister goes out, and that's a real big whiff there. Quartz trying to plant the diffuser, but all the while, his teammates are dying one after another by his side. Now he'll go gun up into the site. He gets 3 big kills, but no more. Rampy will shut that down before it really gets started. Nice try there from Quartz, but SSG are just not going to be shaken on their own site.
Inarguably one of the best players in Canada Division, second only to Eska. If you've been following the stats, Quartz is somebody who has made quite a name for himself, but you have to now take Quartz out of his comfort zone. He's going to be playing up against much better teams here in the qualifiers. Can he keep pace? Can he carry his own weight? That is the question that we're going to see answered over the 2, 3, maybe more matches that Mirage ends up playing. So we'll keep an eye on him. Obviously, those 2 kills that he just got were totally impactless because he still got dragged down at the end of the round, and it was a 1v4. Yeah, I mean, that's tough with very limited time left on the clock. Still, if he can be able to get up a number of kills on SSG and maybe even do some good entry work, because right now SSG's up 3-0. They have a stranglehold on this map for now. I think Quartz can begin to raise his profile even more. Obviously, visibility in the Canada division is smaller than it is in the US division, and even both of them are even smaller than when the NA League comes together for either the major or for the qualifiers. This will be a good test for Quartz. It's a good test for Mirage too, because through 3 rounds, nobody but Quartz has a single kill.
10 seconds remaining.
That's terrible.
That's
That's really terrible. I mean, Flynn had 1 kill, I guess, in the first round. So I guess I'm wrong.
It doesn't count.
I guess I'm wrong. Flynn in round 1 had 1 kill. Quartz has 4. That's it.
It doesn't count, Parker.
Silent, Zilchi, and Loading have yet to find the board.
That's his caster tax. His 1 kill.
Yes. That's all he gets.
Yep. So, I swore they disabled those for custom games, but it's nice to see anyway. Now, SSG have changed their tone a couple different times with the way that they've been defending here. In the first round, it was a pretty aggressive challenge indirectly. The second round, it was a direct challenge on the roam clear. On the third round, the one we just watched, it was passive. Complete passive play from SSG. And Mirage haven't changed their attacks so much to address these adjustments from SSG. So it feels like we're watching a very dynamic team play against a team that is relying just a little bit too much on their structure. Now, this can be, I guess, compensated for by outright talent, and that's why we see Quartz as the example here with his ridiculous, piles of talent with the only kills for his team. But keep in mind, he's dead now, and those kills really ultimately are meaningless because there's no rounds on the board for his team.
Court's going down early as a dagger to the hopes of Mirage. You have to just pray that the remaining members are able to do something they haven't been able to do since this rehost, which is start netting kills. Great shot from Rampy playing on his angle. One of the changes made as the test server build went live just a couple days ago is that Malusi now has the MP5. Also, the shield break has been added as well. So if you're playing Monty, well, you can get knocked away quite easily. So a bit of a nerf to the French mountain. Anyway,
yeah, because
1 minute remaining and both Quartz and Zilchi have gone down. Those Lion charges will not be effective. Lion, a very strong operator on coastline because of how much frag potential there is and how you can just absolutely paralyze that defense. Here goes a toxic canister onto the balcony of Hookah as a single member of Mirage is waiting to waltz right in, but will nonetheless greet both the Smoke and the Jaeger of SSG. The two other members of Mirage are attempting to go to the back of Billiards. However, there's one of SSG just off site in luggage waiting to aggress. Popping up, down goes loading. He gets finished off. Silent now felled 2. Flynn gets 1 kill onto Rampy. That's the only thing that stops it from being flawless. But it doesn't stop SSG from taking the round. They are up 4-0.
As you can see there on both of those pushes from Mirage, between the Hookah balcony and the Aqua push, it was really difficult for the attackers to make their way into the site. Now, that's thanks to the Malusi Wub, which, of course, is not the problem with Malusi. It was her T5. Thank God that that's fixed. And SSG really, with those lined up targets, were able to just knock them down one after another. So, well defended there for SSG. Another passive round, or at least somewhat passive round. They did manage to take down Quartz very early in the round, but still, the Anchors took their man advantage and rolled with it. They'll go to the kitchen defense now, and we'll see if SSG is going to end this half flawlessly.
I hate to be... I believe the official term is a Debbie Downer. If you were to look it up.
I'm ready for this.
I hate to be a Debbie Downer here, but there is nothing so far, not a single round from Mirage, that leads me to believe that they can claw back 2 rounds on attack. Now, things change when the side swap occurs. The problem for Mirage is that if they can't muster up a single round, all it takes is SSG to win a single attack for the remainder of this map, unless we go to overtime and it's game over. And a 7-0 would be absolutely defeating for Mirage and an embarrassment because they are better than a 7-0 against SSG, if I can say that. SSG seems to have learned from some of the mistakes that they made in the regular season and are now looking to punish it. And right now, some punishment being dealt from Mirage. Quartz continuing the hot play that he's had so far. He takes out Rampy. The Vigil's roam was so effective on this bomb site before. We are back down in kitchen for those of you that don't have a visual aid at your disposal. And Rampy started things off here before Mirage turned their sights towards Penthouse and Theater, where, if you remember, both Canadian and Thinking Nade were positioned. But Quartz's run will end at the hands of Canadian, who'd previously excelled on this bomb site and looks to be doing pretty good so far. He's tied with Rampy for 5 kills on this team as they sit atop the scoreboard.
So the roam clear isn't so much a roam clear as it is the attack walking into the building and hoping for the fights to go their way. Quartz did manage to get his first kill outside the building, so all the more credit to him. Fultz, though, will get away from Flynn. The EE1D not dissuading him of retreating. So a little bit of damage done there to the Jaeger, but the kill not fully in. Currently, the challenging in the main lobby is the shift of focus for the attackers, who have taken control of the top floor, it seems, or the majority of it at the very least, and are trying to prevent a retake upstairs. This confrontation in security could make this round for either team. The angle, though, is better for Fultz. He'll win his fight despite his low HP, and he'll get the man advantage back. But loading a well-placed nade in the main lobby will eliminate Canadian, who had been playing behind the reception desk. And this is looking like the closest round we've seen so far.
Oh, absolutely. And the two best components for SSG's killing machine are gone. Not that they don't have abilities in Bosco, Thinking Nade, and Fultz, but still so far they're going to need to do a little bit more. And they've got tools at their disposal to be able to shut off this execute. Bosco swings onto loading, and with just a tiny bit of reserve ammunition left, he finishes the kill that he'd secured moments before. Flynn barrels into kitchen, and he'll attempt to default plant. There are no toxic canisters remaining, but there's a nitro cell, and it sure does connect. Flynn is down for the count. That means Zilchi is the only one upright, and he's going to have to cross a doorway and a path that might as well be his undoing. He looks to the right, swings to the left, swings back to the right. Thinking Nade credited with that final kill with the nitro cell, and then with the MP5 at hand. Gives SSG their 5th round in a row.
Boy, it's a great thing that Thinking Nade on Malusi, you know, that 3-speed with the really great gadget, had a C4 to deny the plant there. And it, in the end, didn't matter that SSG had used up all of their smokes because of that C4. So that's great. Lots of utility there for the defense to use to control the flow of the round. And SSG plays around that perfectly, as they have done for years. Now, it'll be a double bar defense here for SSG, their final defensive round in the first half. If we should get to OT, of course, there might be more defensive rounds. Loading's going to go on to Glaz. This operator was very recently buffed for some reason, and he can now... He's basically... How do I put this? It's like he doesn't have those movement bars on the side of his optic anymore, and he can kind of just move as much as he wants to. It's like, remember when they very first time they added his ability to see through smoke? It's like we're back to that. We'll see if that gives an edge to Mirage, and they can turn that into a round win.
I do want to see how teams play around this, because we got to see a small view of how Glaz can be effective alongside Dokkaebi, alongside Ying, Finka, Lion, etc. We saw it in the French Nationals. It was a Lems that I remember was playing on Glaz. We also saw Ysera in APAC North playing Glaz as well, and seeing how that free movement on a map like Villa works. And it was the Giants taking control of Astronomy, and then Glaz holding the angle over by a Statuary and watching the double doors, cutting off any entry points that would come from over on Red Stairs or over towards 90. So I don't know what Loading is going to be able to do. He's usually a pretty good shot, and when you've got a Glaz with relatively decent mechanical aim, there's a lot of damage that can be done at your hands. This is a double bars defense for the very final defense for Space Station. They are looking for something that is a bit of a rarity, which is a perfect half. We haven't seen it all that much. SSG's spread is similar to where we saw them at before when they defended this bomb site. Fultz on Castle, well off the site. He was still doing some site setup and reinforcements prior. Mirage's execute is going to be quite quick, and there you go, Loading with the Glaz. He springs into action, takes the head off a Canadian, is looking for more. A plant going down, but an ADS catches that smoke. That's particularly dooming. Court's almost able to get this diffuser off, and he'll do so, but dropped as it's another for Loading. 2 kills for SSG. The Glaz is still in there, but he gets taken out by Bosco, and as the post-plant scramble for Mirage is underway, they have been caught looking. A full sweep for Space Station. Rampy with the diffuser, and that is the first half in the books. 6-0 for Space Station.
And you could see that Rampy is really feeling it. So the Glaz there actually got put to good use, and you could see a little bit of a reminder of what Glaz was like for a time. I will say that this game is very different than when Glaz was at his peak, and his ability to see through smokes and not be punished for it is not as problematic as it once was. But the main problem in that round for the Glaz use wasn't actually that. It wasn't, his mechanic necessarily. It was the fact that the smoke didn't go down for Mirage because of the ADS behind the bar. So not shooting that before throwing down the smoke, that's serious issue there. There wasn't a whole lot of noise going on at the time. So it must have been comms that prevented the Glaz from hearing, or Loading, I guess I should say, from hearing the ADS behind the bar and shooting it. Unfortunate. So you said it yourself, Parker. First half done. Very rare that we see a flawless half, but here we are. it's even rarer that we see a flawless map. The odds are that we'll see Mirage get 1 or 2 of these defenses before we head to map number 2.
This was the point that I had made. I think it was round 4, maybe round 5, where, yeah, I mean, I think that now that Mirage is on defense, they could potentially settle in. If they'd already won 1 or 2 rounds, I think they'd have a fighting chance to be able to win a couple more on defense. But mentally, you're getting smoked right now. You're getting blown out of the water by Space Station, and you are aware that even one small hiccup, surrender the first death needlessly, blow some utility, reinforce the wrong thing, leave one panel open, shoot out the wrong wall. That could be the end of it, because it can be exploited by a team like Space Station, and you do not have room for error at all. You drop a single round, that's it. It's the ball game on map 1. Good news from Mirage is that Cafe is map 2. It is one of their best maps. It is one that they excel on, and they've played a fair bit, even though we haven't seen it for this stage, as Jesse had pointed out on the desk. So that's going to be a good showing and a good test for Mirage. But right now, the momentum is very squarely in the favor of Space Station. And I suspect they're going to be pretty quick about this one.
Yeah, it's looking that way. Currently, the focus is on the roam clear. We'll see if SSG gets punished for this roam clear. C4 there for loading is just in case someone gets some white repel. Canadian is on that repel. C4 is used and misses. EE1D there. Ooh, this is dangerous the way that this is being played by Rampy. He's got 2 targets and he hears them, but can't get the right angles, and actually it's working out against him. Look at that. Mirage managed to get Rampy, who fails to commit to any of the available challenges. SSG a man down, but they'll correct that as they eliminate Quartz, one of the top performers from Mirage so far through map number 1.
Poor target prioritization for Rampy there, and frankly, poor Rampy. There were 3 separate members of Mirage, and he wanted at least one of them, couldn't find any. As that logic bomb went off, he was very easily distracted by somebody over at 90, and I think there was pretty good cause for concern, because if he had just decided to go after the Mira of loading playing on the main stairs, somebody from Mirage could have swung from 90 and finished off Rampy if he hadn't been quick about it. So maybe not the worst target prioritization on his end, but Thinking Nade jumps right in and immediately hits an EE1D, and it'll stop loading from being able to get refragged. But no fear on the hands of Silent. He finds his very first kill of the map. Perfect time to do so. Down goes Flynn, and, well, it's Silent to do more damage if he can. He's got Zilchi at his side, but Zilchi is in the bombs, waiting as best as he can. A 3v2 for Space Station with 40 seconds left. They have a significant advantage, and if Silent can't kill enough time, then that means it's going to get even worse for Zilchi. He's got the MPX and a 1.5, so he'll be able to play from longer range, but he's about to get droned out, and both Bosco and Canadian will circle the wagons and head towards the bomb site. Bosco dropping into his team captain's aid. Canadian taking some damage from Silent, as Zilchi will now just turn around the mirror window. Very wary of the buck of Fultz above, but Silent's been downed, and that's it! A 7-0 for Space Station. That was a quick one.
Yeah, it sure was. There isn't a whole lot to talk about in regards to that map. We'll see if there's more. But for the most part, that it went worse than expected from Mirage. I will say that. I thought that we'd see at least 1 or 2 rounds from Mirage. The strategy and the adaptability of SSG, though, was standard. One thing I have to say is I'm impressed by SSG giving their all here today. I like that they're paying the due respect to Mirage and not pulling their punches, even though they made a few mistakes here and there. Nothing that cost them a round, obviously. So there it is.
You play to win. That's it. And I mean, it doesn't matter what skill you think your opponent is at. Bring what you can. Don't leave anything on the table, because we've seen these wild momentum swings that have toppled top teams. Through 7 rounds, only 12 kills if you include the one from the first round or Flynn on the side of Mirage. 12 kills over 7 rounds, not going to cut it. Doesn't matter how good your setups are. Doesn't matter how well practiced you are. 12 kills ain't enough. But there's surely a lot to get into for our analysts. But before we get to them, we have a break ready for you. Don't touch that browser. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
In just about the same amount of time it took for the players to load up in the lobby, it seemed like the map ended just about faster than that when Spacestation Gaming stormed through the #1 team in Canada, Mirage, with the 7-0 victory on Coastline. And this wasn't the match that I expected. Well, maybe it was. Maybe I had too much faith in Mirage. But Jesse and Jacob, as we look at the highlights, break the game down.
See, this was actually more of what I was expecting from Mirage, but not nearly as bad. It's a map they've been to before, but everything on SSG's side was adaptation to everything Mirage was doing within a split second. There wasn't enough room to breathe. SSG had their number throughout the entire thing. I might have given Mirage 1 round, perhaps 2. 3 would have made it competitive, but 7 in a row with no recourse. This was an absolute slaughter.
Yeah, usually they survive in the snow. Usually Canadians can do it, but they definitely got frostbite and lost this one pretty hard. It doesn't get much worse than this.
All right, the stats are going to be on your screen, and as you take a look at the left side, you see even effort from a lot of teams, especially a player that didn't die at all. But look at Mirage, and I'm going to be completely honest, it took about 5 rounds in order for them to get 3 players on the board with a kill. I mean, what do you guys have to say about that?
I mean, this is really tough because, you know, it's a 7-0. It's always hard to look at 7-0 stats, but I'll look at some positives first. Faults, obviously, as you mentioned, 0 deaths. I think that's really impressive. Rampy technically at the bottom of the scoreboard, but he still went 6-3. Like, you're not going to bash on that performance at all. I'm glad we're not seeing a repeat of the TSM game. And even 100% headshot ratio, you know, that's not the most important stat, but it at least shows that he's hitting his shots and he's on today, which is really important. You know, Silent and Zilchi, 1 kill, 0 kills, 2 kills for Flynn. Like, yeah, we can bash that all day, but it is what it is at the end of the day. They've got 2 more maps where they can try to get those numbers up.
Now, keep the stats page up just for a second. I want to ask the new analyst, Caliber Jacob. Take a look at Zilchi, 0 kills. Take a look at Foltz, 0 deaths. They evened out, but Foltz definitely had the better day today. I know we're going to talk a lot about Mirage, but what did you like to see from Foltz, man? It's been amazing.
Foltz, the only thing I really wanted to see more from him was to up the headshot rating a bit, but hey, he got his frags literally every round. It was either above a 1 KDR. When you're able to pull that kind of performance out, it means you're putting the work in. The thing I don't like is the fact that Mirage practically didn't seem like they had loaded into the lobby. I know you said it right as we came back from replay, but this game took about as long as it would normally take if a lobby just completely timed out. They tried, sure, but they got read like a book, did Mirage. This was... Can we not do this again, please?
We're going to have a second map, Jacob, and hopefully it can be better. But in order for it to be better, Jesse, there was something that was going on with Mirage that you really didn't like, and that contributed to them getting steamrolled by the world champs.
Yeah, let's talk about roam clearing for just a second, okay? It goes pretty simple. You got a drone in front of a guy, you got the guy following the drone, and then when the drone sees someone, they call it, and you shoot the guy that the drone saw, okay? You can roam clear pretty effectively, use nades if you have to, you know, whatever, but nothing was happening, right? Like, the roamers most of these rounds were not getting addressed, whether it was C4 players down below, or whether it was somebody up in hookah in the bomb sites and bars. They're just not even, you know, being thought about, and it's weird because Mirage looked like they had a game plan for that. You know, they're bringing that Yana. Yana's a great roam clearing operator because she can beat that drone, and she's even more effective because it can throw off your opponents sometimes when they think they've gotten a kill, but actually it's just, you know, the clone disappearing, right?
Right.
So, like, they had that combo of not loading in silent, which looked like it was built for the roam clear, but then they didn't roam clear, and it's so questionable to me why that wasn't happening. Maybe it shakes, you know, maybe there's something going on for the roam of Space Station that they just weren't able to pin down. There was a lot of visual getting played out, but that was really, that hurt to see from my mind, because I know Mirage is a team that can roam clear, they just weren't doing it.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as we're getting map number 2 ready to start in just a moment, we had a community vote. If you followed our socials, I told you about that earlier on, and the question was, who will win? Will it be the Canadians or Canadian? And let's see what you all at home thought. The poll will be coming up soon, but what do you guys think it was? Because it was a blowout. 72% said Canadian, along with Space Station Gaming. I'm going to pull out ahead with the victory, and look at that map 1, a 7-0 victory. They seem to know what they're talking about. We got some armchair analysts out there. But before we jump into map 2 and toss to the casters, all right, Jacob, do you still think this is a 2-0 for Space Station Gaming? Because it looked pretty scary for Mirage right there.
See, I'm really more surprised that there were 28% of people that decided that Mirage actually had a chance in this matchup.
Okay.
Yep, I'm sticking pretty resolutely by what I've got. Mirage need to enter the lobby first, then we can start talking about whether they've got a shot.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, map number 2 is just about to get started. Space Station Gaming versus Mirage on Cafe. Kicks and Parker, take it away.
Thank you very, very much. I have a curl here. It's very grease. It's very grease lightning, Michael, and I can't do anything with it. But
is Grease that one movie where people like do the thing?
Yep. Anyway, we have map 2 lined up for us. The finger snapping.
Yeah. The
No,
snapping.
Michael, that's Footloose.
What?
That's Footloose. Dirty Dancing. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but I think it looks good on you, Parker.
For those of you that are playing the caster bingo, by the way, that's Kix doesn't get a reference checked off on your bingo sheet.
I mean, I missed like 90% of them. Okay, like you could fill.
Yeah, well,
out
they
a
got that
bingo
one
sheet.
early. Okay.
Yeah.
They also have 7-0, which is on there somewhere. That one's also checked.
I mean,
And Flynn
think,
gets a kill, also checked off.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have predicted that one. It was a little bit more ruthless than I would have imagined. I mean, Parker, we had a rehost. That map had a rehost, and it was one of the fastest maps I've seen in a while.
Michael, we haven't even been live for an hour yet, and we went through an entire intro segment, multiple commercials, a break, 2 analyst segments, a match with a rehost, and we've only been live for 58 minutes.
I keep looking at my watch thinking it can't be true, but you're right. Yeah, it's weird.
That was a fast one. And I mean, mercy killing was the phrase that Jacob used, and map 1 was the definition of that. You know what you would find if you looked up mercy killing in the dictionary, Michael?
SSG murdering Mirage?
No, the definition of the term mercy killing, which that was.
Yes. Yeah, that was that. Yeah.
That was that. So we'll load into Cafe, and we'll see if Mirage can muster up a better performance. They will need to get at minimum 1 round. That's it. And then it will have already been better than the first map, but obviously they're going to want to go for the full 7, and we'll see if they'll be able to do that. Coastline is nowhere near as structured a map as Cafe. I think when you look at the way that teams like to play Coastline, it really does lean into unpredictability. It really does lean into fragging potential, and when you see the way that SSG played, they were quite refined. They were not that unpredictable. And I mean, we only got to see 1 round from Mirage, but it looked like Mirage were decently refined as well. Now, already the bans here on Cafe have shaken things up. We saw an Ace, Nomad, Valk, and Wamai ban. None of those operators have been removed so far here on Cafe. It's been Thatcher, Capitao, and Jaeger. And SSG, I don't think we're prepared for the Jaeger ban, but they're waiting to see what damage they can inflict to Mirage. It'll be a Mira. This was an operator that SSG liked very much and does like very much on Coastline, but they think it might be too much of an obstacle here on Cafe.
Yeah, I think the only thing that surprises me from this ban phase is the Jaeger instead of the Wamai. The reason you ban the Wamai over the Jaeger is very simple. Wamai brings a shield. So clearly there's a, I guess, a want for that shield. So yeah, well, Rampy's going to bring the Wamai. He'll probably pay, well, I would say normally he'll play by pixel, but they're going to Kitchen for the first defense. With the Thatcher ban, the Cade in play, this is going to be really hard for Mirage to get the wall open. I think the most sensible course here is going to be a top-down clear for Mirage, since they have the Sledge and the Nomad. They can open up above, and they can cut off those rotations and retakes on the top floor. Jesse is trying to tell us that this is the first map of Stage 2 SSG where they have not banned Wamai. There you go. Typically, SSG bans Wamai.
Yes, that's what that stat means. Thank you, Jesse, by the way.
Thank you, Jesse.
We should just have, like, Jesse, just, like, chick facts. And just pop up on the screen.
I tried to talk to production about that. Like a thing, like where like a little thing that lets us casters when we're watching a different match be like, hey, this is a fact, and then it pops up on screen. I wonder if that'll ever happen.
5 seconds left before insertion.
Fact! Jesse Chick is good at numbers.
That is a fact.
Objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
He picked the right line of work. That's for sure.
Isn't he studying for something? as well.
Yes, he is getting his degree in
Maths.
numberology.
Yeah. Numberology. He's going to become a
numeralist. Numbersist.
A numeralist.
A numeralist. That's the one.
Yeah.
So, all right. Round number 1, 30 seconds in. SSG seems to be quite happy with their setup. They're not really doing too much. Unlike what we saw in Coastline, right as I say that, Canadian impacts something? I don't know what he impacted the rotate. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't see that get opened up much, but there it is. Allowing him to play out of VIP and run to Whiskey, which is what he's going to do. He is in a hurry. He put down a Banshee? No,
they're adjusting their strat because they know that the clear is top down.
Smart thing to do. This is very commonplace on Cafe. There are 2 ways to attack this kitchen bomb site. You can either go from the back, known as the east side, or a freezer take, or you can go through the front, which is the west side, which is known as a bakery take. You don't often see much else other than those 2, and Mirage's focus is going to be over on the freezer side. First step is to be able to open up as much of that soft flooring as is humanly possible. Then you're going to want to open up the freezer hatch if it hasn't been opened just yet. So you then will drop through freezer. Now, the thing for SSG's defense is, holy smokes, Battle Eye, Canadian is going to be guarding that back freezer wall. So if somebody does go to drop, he can swing into action. At the bottom of Brown Stairs, he'll get flashed and naded out, but Rampy gets the first kill onto loading with a minute to spare. That's Rampy playing inside a Whiskey, as was noted by you, and it was given to us in information from Jesse. This is the first time that we're going to actually get to see SSG with a Wamai on the board, and they will play him and put him to good use. Canadian 2 kills from the same spot. He's called out in the corner, and with a shred of HP, takes down 2 members of Mirage. Zilchi and Quartz will have to find at least 1 kill, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows? Quartz will find 1 on the Canadian. Grenade in hand, he'll have to do even more work as Zilchi falls. So Quartz with 30 seconds left in a 1v4. An almost hopeless situation. And just like that, SSG will begin to advance. Great shot from Quartz onto Rampy. This is the type of player that you cannot swing onto without fear of losing your head. Quartz gets punished by Fultz as it's a crossfire established into the back of Kitchen. And Space Station finds their 8th round in a row and the first one here on Cafe.
All right, so top down clear from Mirage. It was successful. They did manage to establish control of those top floors. That's great. The sledge opening from above did not net nearly as much as I would have expected. That is partially due to the extension that we saw from SSG, partially due to the lack of actual presence on the holes that were opened up by Mirage. Now, I can't really blame them because they have to flush out the defenders in the main lobby by Whiskey Bar and by VIP before they can really use those holes to good effect. The reason for that is if the defenders are off site and they have rotates back into site, then the holes above are not going to be able to fully contain those defenders, and they're not likely to get any kills. So after clearing out the top floors, the focus for Mirage shifts to, okay, roamers, horizontal, main lobby, Whiskey Bar, VIP. And I want to say Mirage got control of the main lobby area, but Mirage didn't get control of the main lobby area. Quartz did. He was alone. So it cost 4 bodies, and it was not worth it. Well done to SSG, Rampy, and Canadian in particular, making that clear in the main lobby by the Whiskey Bar and so on. So costly for Mirage that there was no chance for the attack to win the round. Now, that's all thanks to that adjustment we saw early in the round where SSG shifted from a bakery defense to a, well, not really a bakery defense. They were also defending VIP, but they just shifted more of their utility to account for that top-down clear. It was just good game sense.
This is a map that SSG doesn't have the same reputation on that they do on other maps in the map pool, but without knowing the numbers, and Jesse can back me up on this one, I don't feel like this is a terrible map for Space Station. I mean, they had to let one map that don't necessarily like through the map ban phase. That's just the way it works with the banning and picking system. I mean, Cafe is where you go to for SSG. I mean, they are well practiced. They've played good teams here. You know, DZ has played on this map a number of times. TSM has played on this map a number of times. If you are a top team in the US division, you have to be comfortable with Cafe. SSG's win rate on Cafe is 25%, by the way. So my memory maybe not the greatest.
That's only in recent history, though, and that's against TSM, Oxygen, DZ that they
These
lost
are against good Cafe teams, and you're picking them against SSG, and they often end up being that second pick. So,
and as much as they lost it, they're looking like they might win it here, but Thinking Nate is going to be the first casualty of this round. Down goes your castle. Zilchi has taken a little bit of damage. Well, sorry, a lot of bit of damage, as he's been rendered on about 20 HP.
That was the Wamai dealing out quite a bit of bullets from inside a bathroom. Rampy will take more damage, by the way. This is the best entry we've seen from Mirage on any of their rounds thus far, and it's managed to push SSG back quite a ways. But the jig is up for them. The game is afoot. They get called off and head back to the bomb site with 3 members of SSG all side by side. Missed opportunity from Fultz as loading punishes him, and the lead for Mirage will continue to grow. Quartz above might be able to find one as well as he looks longingly in towards reading. He'll have to help his team. Canadian inside of the bomb site, he gets chased away from some destruction work above. He needs to be very wary of the sledge who's up there. There goes the wall too, and a nitro cell should claim Quartz, but only does a tiny bit of damage. Silent removed from play as Flynn smokes Rampy. Canadian in that default plant spot. Diffuser has been downed as Flynn has dropped 2. Bosco on the hunt. He's going to look to secure Quartz from above. Quartz has been picked back up. SMG in hand. Bosco hits his mark. Quartz down. 2v3. SSG will trail, and it's Canadian in a 1v3. The first round for Mirage. Could it happen? Canadian, and he'll need to stop loading, getting this diffuser down. He does some damage to Zilchi. Next one up. There's 2 lined up. Canadian knows it. He gets them all. Diffuser's down, and he has plenty of time. Look at the excitement on his face. No rounds for Mirage just yet. You're going to need to do a little better. SSG up 2-0.
Well, Mirage had no chance to transition to the post plant there. Just not enough time. They get the diffuser down, and Canadian punishes those players who are attempting to cover. Flynn, Zilchi, and loading, losing that one out to the Canadian as Canadians. So, SSG still have yet to drop a round. Mirage in that last round, top clear. They pressure into Cocktail. They actually do a great job of not only clearing out Cocktail, but taking the man advantage on that roam clear as well. I was impressed by that from Mirage, and SSG made the right call. They fell off. They didn't overcommit. But the damage that was being inflicted from the players in the site onto the attackers above, who were opening from, above, as you expect, was much more than Mirage bargained for, much more than I'm used to seeing. So that's not just Canadian clutching up there in the end, but that's Canadian doing a lot of work from below towards the mid-round as well. In general, a round that should have been Mirage's, and the flawless streak continues.
I did not have any hope for Canadian there. Not that I thought that Canadian was bad, just that I mean, it's a 1v3, and he was trapped in the corner of reading with a castle barricade to his left, no way out.
I mean, no argument from me. No argument from me. I'm with you on that one.
Together, united.
Yep, Canadian should have lost to the Canadians, but it didn't happen.
In the end, Canadians still won.
Yeah, that's true. Because Canadian won it.
Yeah, that's very good. So that was Mirage's best round by a kilometer. I was going to say a mile, but I feel like it's suiting since,
I mean, I'd rather
the metric system.
I'd rather we use the metric system as well, Parker.
Yes. So we are again united. But that was the best round for Mirage by quite an awful lot. They were able to put good pressure on the top floor. SSG also did not hit their shots. Fultz should have had the kill onto loading from above, and he totally botched that. And now almost a scary chance for Fultz as he had engaged with loading, who was on repel. That was a big gamble from Fultz, and he's looking for more. Look at this bravado.
Best round for Mirage by a country kilometer.
There you go. It doesn't really have the same ring to it.
It doesn't.
Does it?
No, that's what makes it funny. All right, SSG are challenging this east balcony presence, but the cutoff is still there for Mirage, and that's the key. The reason they have someone on that balcony is so that when the attackers start clearing out from the west side, there's nowhere for SSG to run to other than the drop in Laundry, which is not always a given that you're going to actually get to. Rampy is ready to drop, though. He's just actually playing on the cusp of the drop, and he will fully commit whether or not he intended to. Nice pre-fire there from the castle of Thinking Nade, and he'll do more than he received. Quartz put down to about 30 HP, Thinking Nade to 50. Still an HP win for the defense. The time is sufficient in terms of delay. SSG did fall back a little bit earlier than I think they wanted to, but the pressure from Mirage upstairs was quite significant. You can't really blame the defense for getting out while they still had legs to move.
Another round where, by the way, SSG just flat out missing their shots. Thinking Nade usually would land that. Fultz usually would have landed it on the previous round, so challenging to be sure. 3 members of SSG were all called into action to try to hunt down Silent. And another for Fultz as he takes out Loading, so 2 kills to start this off. Unable to get the third as damage is done to Zilchi, but he walks away from it largely unscathed. Quartz on the hunt down by White Stairs as 30 seconds left for Quartz to be able to do something. Continuously trying to find the pulse of Canadian, who just retreats as best as he can. Quartz gives up the ghost. A smart move to make, but then no, re-engages. I guess he's got confidence that both Flynn and Zilchi will be able to do something, but Thinking Nade plays a shrewd angle from above, and down goes Quartz. Wall opens up, waiting for Flynn to swing on in, and there he goes. Thinking Nade, another missed opportunity, but both Bosco and Canadian are capable of holding it together. And Mirage, well, they just ran out of time and tried to barrel into the bomb site and got cut down in the process. SSG pull off a perfect site rotation, and it's 3-0 for them.
Parker, when was the last time we saw a flawless series? Because I'm racking my brain here.
Mini Golf Gouda versus Space Station Gaming at DreamHack Winter was the first 14-0 we ever saw.
And I think that
And it was Space Station who beat them 14-0, by the way. Of course, one of the most prolific and storied teams in all of Rainbow Six history, Mini Golf Gouda.
I don't even remember who that is.
It was a BYOC team. If you recall, they were CSGO players and they thought they were signing up for the CSGO series, but they signed up for the Rainbow Six one by accident. So they just decided to play.
I remember that
and
now.
It was right after we'd switched formats to the 7-0 or to the 7 sides, and they were the very first team in an official match to lose 0-14, and of course they lost the hands of Space Station.
And I don't remember that happening, by the way, 0-14 since then. I'm sure it has.
It wasn't on stream, it was off stream.
I'm sure it has happened, but I don't remember. So assuming that was the last time that a 0-14 happened, SSG right now could be playing for the record books. And, well, you know, likewise, Mirage could be playing for the record books.
I don't think there's ever been a flawless series in something of this highest stakes. When you look at the fact that this is a qualifier for the major, the major itself, you're not seeing a 14-0. It's just flat out not happening.
Wait, didn't Barrage get 0-22'd over 2 matches or something like that?
I think they won rounds against DZ. They beat Tempo Storm.
I don't know. This is so long ago. We're talking like early, like year 1 stuff here. But
Barrage. I thought you said Mirage, and I was like,
no, Barrage.
Barrage.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that takes me back.
I'd have to look it up. Those are so old. Anyway,
but take a look at this.
Yeah,
this is gonna be a cool. Silent almost gets blown up by a grenade. And they both get hucked on in, but Loading takes a ton of damage. In fact, everybody from Mirages, as they are just meeting the artillery in the hands of Fultz, he's spraying down 2 confirmed kills, 1 down, that he'll have to collect at some point. The Alda, a formidable machine that can just chew through anything. Flynn will get Quartz back to life. Zilchi is all on his own by Prep, or by Small Bakery, rather. He'll go on to Drone. This is a pretty decent drone. 3 members of Space Station are revealed on it, and Zilchi will now head towards the main door, as Mirage have decided that the best bet is to go for the back. Malusi of Canadian knows that, playing inside of VIP yet again. 90 seconds remaining and not wanting to get droned out. This was a very crucial spot for Canadian before he took 2 down on the previous defense here, but he's going to get none this time. Quartz punishes him as he bursts on in, and Quartz had been strong in this spot too, but he has very limited HP, Michael. Zilchi's gone, now it's Quartz and Flynn to do the rest of the work.
Doesn't seem very likely, but as long as Quartz is up, there is a chance. Flynn, likewise, has actually been getting frags in this series. So there's another little edge, I guess, for these 2 hopeful saviors from Mirage's pride. Flynn will challenge in through Freezer. Nice shot onto Rampy. Very clean. Vaulting in through the window. And Quartz will plant by Bunker. This is a good cutoff. Another nice shot onto Thinking Nade, rendering him down to about 70 HP. Quartz gets off the plant attempt, but more damage done. Bosco gets Quartz inside a bunker, thanks to those gas canisters forcing the reposition. And Fultz will get the long angle fight onto Flynn and win it out. Alda go Burr through the whole round. SSG takes yet another, and this just seems like a non-stop stream of rounds for SSG.
At what point does this break? It's gonna have to, right? We are not going to witness
when they win.
I mean, we're not going to witness a 14-0, are we?
Maybe. I mean, it's be a nice little treat. It's been a long time.
I mean, is it a treat?
No, Parker. It's the opposite of a treat, but you know, we take the wins where we can get them, right? Right?
I guess.
Little nugget of history.
I guess. I mean, we are at the moment witnessing NA League history, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's no denying that. So, regardless of what the outcome is here, SSG have put on quite the showing against the top team out of the Canada division.
Yes.
And Mirage are not exactly where they need to be. You don't want to point fingers, but with both loading and silent having remarkably hard games, you cannot rely solely on Quartz to be getting all of these kills. I believe he got 5 kills in map 1. He has 4 now. 9 kills over, well, 11 rounds of actual play. I mean, close to a 1 KD against SSG when your team is lagging behind isn't terrible. That's actually decently impressive for Quartz. And like I said in map number 1, Quartz is a player whose stock is going to rise significantly, and round after round after round, he is the only player on Mirage so far that has looked like they can stand up to SSG. Loading is somebody who's going to need to pick it up, and he starts off by killing Canadian. He is very confident on the entry. Canadian, the standout performer for SSG in this map, well, he gets punished down below. The Valkyrie is gone. You have to hope that all 3 of those black eye cams have been used. But if there was a deployable shield brought from Canadian, it will stick around. If not, it was a nitro cell in the hands of the Valk. Zilchi finds one too onto Rampy. It seems like Mirage are just taking fights when they can find them and being very aggressive here. This is a reading defense. If you recall, this was a pretty good take for Mirage that came down to Canadian clutching it out. Bosco pushes up though. He gets droned. He doesn't care one bit and will continue to walk away, but his aim will have to be better on his next target than that drone. He gets to the deployable shield inside a pixel.
I think the drone didn't even check by ticket, which is where we saw Thinking Nade playing. And now he's going to persist. 1 missed set of burn, and 2 stuns are not going to be enough in all likelihood. Maybe they will, though. This is one of those detonates, and yeah, explosive used. Down goes the shield. Bosco repositions. He's trying to force out the bar, and he'll do some damage to Zilchi, but no kill. Air jab a little bit late there for Zilchi, and it will be destroyed. Inside a back bar, though, that's Quartz, and he'll finish off Bosco nice and easy. As you said, Quartz's stock likely to rise, and it's already seeing some benefit. Nice C4 grab there from Quartz. He keeps himself alive, and he'll spot his opponent just below him, downing Thinking Nade. Fultz now in a 1v4. It's not official yet, but it soon will be, as Thinking Nade will not be picked up. And there's the final kill. This could be the first round for Mirage, and history can be broken here unless we get the clutch. Fultz gets the first one. That's big. Flynn planting in the site, though. He's about to be put into a post-plant. Not ideal. With Quartz still above and the tracers going out, the distraction works. Post-plant now. Only 40 seconds for Fultz to find his last 3 targets. Bulletproof Cam calling that the white hallway is clear. Forced by the bar, though. He spots one over by default, and he'll lose it to Quartz. Mirage take their very first round, and history will not be made this day.
Almost 90 minutes after we started this broadcast, and Mirage are finally on the board. It comes from great top-down play again from Mirage. Obviously, reading is a shaky bomb site for Space Station. They had some struggles on round number 2 when we said Canadian needed to clutch on that 1v3, which he accomplished, but it's not sustainable. And this time, a 1v4 does become a 1v3, but the magic does not happen again. Lightning only strikes once for Space Station, and Fultz is unable to pull it off. Loading began the round by charging into Bakery and picking off Canadian, as it looked like Space Station were still trying to get settled. And I mean, what a perfect chance for Mirage to be able to take advantage of that. They understand that SSG is still doing some late setup work, so Mirage can exploit that. This is something that the old Team Secret / I Don't Know team was extremely strong at, was that they were a very unpredictable and quite aggressive team. And while the brain trust of that squad would often know when their opponents would do longer setups and specifically design counter strats to be able to break into either a room or a bomb site when they knew that the defense was distracted. That's exactly what happened here, and the 2 early picks from Mirage come as SSG is caught scrambling. Canadian down below, still likely trying to set up, maybe playing solo, trying to go for a spawn peek. We don't know exactly. Canadian gets punished. Then Zilchi gets a kill onto Thinking Nade from above as Thinking Nade gets caught out as he's trying to rotate on that top floor. Now SSG have to battle in a 3v5 for about 2.5 minutes, all because they were still trying to set things up to their liking.
You know, I guess we're seeing it on display now, why this is, but I have to say, I haven't met a hacker in ranked in a long time. Ubisoft's doing a great job of banning them these days. It's nice to see. I did think that they disabled that notification for custom games, though. I thought that happened.
I mean, I couldn't tell you.
I guess they're not. Maybe that's later.
Not sure.
Anyway, it's cool, yeah. The setup here for SSG going to be on mining. They've got C4 for below, the cardiac sensor as well. Interestingly, the cardiac sensor currently finds itself on the northeast side of the building. You would expect it to be southwest, but I think Canadian's just trying to scout out this attack right now. Once he gets a better grasp of it, he can rotate over. He has spotted loading, I believe, and will call that out. Yep, you can see the pre-aiming there from Rampy, who is playing on the top floor. Yeah, he's well aware of this attacker. They could C4 him, but better to just wait and let the enemy kill himself. There you go. Rampy gets the kill. Loading goes down. That's one of your hard destructors, and your Maverick, of course. That's an interesting roundabout way to get downstairs for Rampy, but he survives, and in the end, that's all that really matters. Now, reading isn't a roam right now. It's an extension for SSG, as they are on a mining defense. And it's working out so far for them. The top floor has been forfeited to the attack. It's no longer needed. The kill was gained. The time was lost. The attack now has to struggle to hit onto the site. Interestingly, now that they've cleared out the top floor, transitioning it to a mining defense is a little bit harder than transitioning it to a reading defense. Less work for you to do above, I suppose, or maybe it's just less standard. Rampy gets a second kill, and Flynn will eat a lot of damage, as will Zilchi. So when all's said and done, this round is looking a little bit more buttoned up for SSG than, well, the last one.
I was going to ask if Mirage even had any drones at their disposal, because they had no intel. They were still face-checking that top floor when they had complete control. A single drone would have taken 10 seconds instead of the almost minute that they used to determine that they had the perfect ability to be able to take control. And there's no Mute or Mozzie present, so it's not even like there's intel denial there that Mirage would have had to deal with. No jammers, no pests, nothing. So, as we are now in the cut and thrust of the round, with only 20 seconds remaining, Mirage have their work cut out for them. Flynn is going to have to exothermic charge a soft wall. It could get very easily shot. It does not. Wall opened up, and he'll have to charge in. Fultz takes down Silent. Flynn has 1 tick of HP. A single bullet from the UMP is enough. And there you have it. SSG answers back the only round that they've dropped so far with a flawless one. And they take the first half 5-1 on Cafe.
It did look like SSG was getting a little bit lax there. Maybe taking a bit of a step back and chilling on the round that they lost. And I think that they realized, yeah, let's not do that. So they really buttoned up all the hatches, and we're sure that they took their opponent very seriously. And that defense there for SSG really didn't seem to have many holes in it. So, that's the first half done now. Mirage get to defend. Now, this is where there is a strong possibility for Mirage to actually start racking up some rounds. Wow, I know, but this is defense of Cafe. It's definitely possible. As unlikely as that seems, it is possible. You know what else is possible? You heading to the esports tab in the shop of Rainbow Six and checking out the amazing R6 Shares skins that you can go ahead and pick up right now. They actually directly support the teams as well. It's a great way to say, hey, SSG, you're clobbering Mirage. I support you. I'm going to buy your Ella skin. And so I can directly support you monetarily. Also, it looks pretty awesome. if you play Ella, so.
I like that. I like that segue.
Thank you.
It is kind of a bummer that Space Station got the Ella skin, and then, I mean, Ella was buffed for about a week. I think it was on the test server or live, and then she got nerfed again. So
yeah, because that buff was a mistake.
That's the life of an Ella main, I guess, even if they even exist at all. Well, round number 7, and we have side swapped. Or swapped sides. Mirage is downstairs in kitchen. This is where they're going to begin their half. It's the same spot that SSG started on. SSG was successful both times they defended this bomb site. And a lot of teams prefer kitchen. It tends to be one of the most played bomb sites, and for good reason. It's decently easy to defend, and there's a lot that you can do with it. SSG are going to attack from Bakery as Zilchi governs over prep with a deployable shield. You can see through those slats. There's a Banshee in front of him as well, as a small opening has been created by the Maverick. So there's some map control gained by Space Station. After opening that up, it won't allow Zilchi to play inside a prep the way he wants without getting punished for it. And the Maverick of Canadian will immediately turn his sights towards the long wall inside a Bakery.
With this wall open, you gain many a line of sight, and you will be able to control the angles as you attempt to go for a plant, typically by K1. We'll see, though, if that's even the case. It's more likely that this will be a TDM when the wall gets opened up. That's typically how the Bakery plays out. The defense throws their bodies at the problem until they get the win. Zilchi will take some damage. Silent, though, above is going to be a major factor for the defense here. He can actually control not only the breach, but the prep entry as well. However, his hold for the breach was poorly placed. He probably should have put that in engine, so he has a little bit of an odd angle here, and it's not going to gain him as much control as it could have.
So SSG, at least for now, just a little bit caught up in this defense. Some damage done to Silent as he'd been watching from above. You talked about that. Zilchi also fallen off of his shield, looking for greater safety in the back of this bomb site. It's quite a long range that he can play off of, and look at what he's going to have to deal with here. Is there's that Swiss carving, that Swiss Army knife carving that's been done into the wall. Zilchi does have the 1.5, so he's got a longer angle that he can play off of, but nobody from Space Station is pushing. Silent had taken some lumps before, and SSG's failure to secure that kill will cost Canadian his life. They trade off Zilchi, though, as Fultz just pounds him to death, leading a 4v4. Time for the execute to happen, and there go the Candelas. Another kill for Silent from above. Bosco shrugs off as much damage as he can. Diffuser will need to get planted, and he goes, but Mirage owns the kill feed, and it's Bosco in an almost hopeless situation. He gets finished off by Quartz as the timer was at 0 anyway. The first defense for Mirage works out in their favor, and they have found their second round. Another sound issue, and we are going to go for a rehost.
They get their second round and their second technical rehost. You get one per map, as previously mentioned. So a little bit of a pause here. Mirage are going to get to contemplate their defensive strategy, as will SSG, I guess, but an offensive strategy. We'll see a little bit of a, timeout. unfortunate about that sound bug. This series has been going really quickly, apart from the 2 rehosts we've had. Overall, though, as much as Mirage did manage to take that round, it's still, there's an air, I guess, of SSG having prevalence in the round throughout. I will say that was the first time we've seen SSG strategically lacking. They didn't apply the necessary focus to the middle floor, and so Silent playing above was a major nuisance. In fact, you could say he pretty much won the round.
I mean, he got 2 picks from that spot. He was able to waste at least a minute's worth of time, and I have no doubt that Space Station had maybe some deliberation as to how to deal with that. Do you just go around him, or do you try to take him out? And now, I think really what came into this was sunk costs. Space Station had spent so much time on bakery and so much effort, utility, opening up the prep wall, opening up the bakery wall, dumping in flashbangs, and then eventually dumping in candelas. You don't really have the utility to go and conquer that second floor, and you don't have the time, most importantly. Especially when Silent gets that first pick. Yeah, it gets traded off right away. But if you don't have even numbers, you are putting your site push at a major disadvantage, especially with a Maestro still up, especially if there's any C4s that are playing in the bomb site. So all of those things kind of work together and were essentially this patchwork quilt of defense for Mirage. And it's not that Mirage had a poor defense and that Space Station just struggled to deal with it. It was decently well set up by Mirage, but obviously the failure comes from SSG to deal with that nuisance on the second floor. That's really it. Yeah, credit to Mirage for the way that they played it, but if Space Station had a droned out Silent earlier or assessed the situation and realized that that's a pretty common spot for a defender to play for what it's worth, and SSG should have been prepared for that if they had better tools to tackle it, then I think the site push from SSG would have been much easier. It just comes down to time and resource allocation, and in this particular case, SSG mismanaged that, and Mirage were able to win the round because of it.
So, Mirage have now proven that they are capable of taking rounds, not only on attack, but most importantly on defense. Since they've got a long stretch ahead of them on this defensive half, the possibility of overtime becomes ever more present. And there's still actually a possibility of Mirage taking this map straight up if they go and have an amazing defensive half. Now, I don't see that as being very likely. I think, if anything, Mirage will bring this to OT and maybe a map number 3. But at least we're seeing some promise here. I think in map number 1, it seemed like Mirage was just a little bit flustered, and things didn't shake out their way. But here in map number 2, there's... the word is competition, and I'm happy to see that. We'll go ahead and load back into the map, the score, pick up where it left off. 5-2 favored SSG.
Obviously, things working and breaking quite well for Space Station. Defense on Cafe tends to be a comfy side for you to be on. And, well, if you take a look, the score from SSG will only confirm that, with them presently having won those 5 rounds. So kudos to them and hats off to them for it. Mirage will need to do the same thing. And it's not always easy to be able to inflict the same damage against your opponents as were done to you. Mirage especially will be battling from behind. Teams have spoken at length and players have talked about the adversity that is presented when you go down huge on one side. Even though you know that a map might be defender or attacker sided, there is still a mental hump that you need to get over where you look at that scoreboard and you see, damn, they are 2 rounds away from knocking us out, and we have 5 to go. Now, that gap can hurry and has hurried in the past for other teams, but if you want to gamble and bet on Mirage, we're going to need to see some more flashes of brilliance out of this round and the next round, because you're on the razor's edge. You're on the razor's edge of defeat. Match point comes after the next victory for SSG, and then the stakes get even higher than they are right now. So, Kitchen so far a perfect defensive success rate. Mirage will probably hope to get to Kitchen yet again, but they're going to start their second defense on reading. This is the 1A to the 1B over on Kitchen, and that's a run out from Silent that gets read like a book by Fultz. Removed from action. That Vigil play, not ideal, and Space Station gets that first pick.
I think Mirage probably said in their break, hey, just do some crazy stuff. They won't expect it. And well, in the beginning of this round, Fultz certainly expected the silent run out there. Silent's been struggling in this map. Sorry, Silent's been struggling in this series, and that struggle is going to continue. There's always an ever-present possibility for change there, and Mirage might benefit from that. I mean, they surely would. Not really a might, but I don't know if it's going to change the outcome that drastically. Right now, SSG with the pick, and they're starting to gain the control. The pixel roam is interesting. This is a mid-floor defense right now for SSG. Pixel roam, I guess, was just to burn utility and maybe some more time. It's done that. Lots of stuns used, an Ash charge used as well. SSG had to spend some time droning out and being sure it was clear. Loading, though, lots of damage eaten up as he drops there into Laundry just to try and re-engage on the white hallway and support his teammate Quartz, who's actually trying to retake Pixel. Bosco gets one and does damage to the other on this attempted retake upstairs, and there's more players from SSG pitching in on this fight. Quartz cannot catch a break, and Bosco will finish him off. Flynn and Zilchi now the last two defenders, and Mirage looks already out of this round.
This is a statement round from SSG, as they've already got one flawless. It was in round 6 to end their defensive half. Can Zilchi break that flawless goal that SSG has at their disposal? The answer, not quite. He manages to down Fultz, but an engagement on the stairs does not break in his favor. And back into reading he goes. Flashbangs will give away the position of SSG as they look to storm on in. Canadian does just that. Zilchi gets the kill onto Bosco. There was a down above, but SSG still lock it out. And whether it's flawless or not, they've got match point at their disposal. Only one more round for them to be able to put this series away.
It was a nice little pre-fire there from Zilchi. So no flawless round. Beautiful stuff, but still looks like this should be over shortly. Top floor defense here for Mirage and potentially the last round of this map. It's going to be a Melusi, Wamai, Smoke Maestro, and Valkyrie to hold on to this one. You know, the Jaeger ban, while interesting, hasn't been that... it has been pretty important, actually. Yeah, it's changed a lot of these rounds strategically. I think we've been underselling the strategic element of this match so far, and the reason for that is, honestly, a lot of these rounds have been getting boiled down, and the strategy, in air quotes, has kind of dissipated overall. A lot of the outcomes have just been these weird ad hoc gunfights that, you know, don't really have anything to do with strategy. And that's not problematic. It's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, I guess. We'll see what comes on this last round here. Mirage will be setting up for a top floor defense. They've got all the right kit. This could easily be a continuation of the series. But at this point, the series has gone by in such a blur that I don't really know that it'll matter when it ends. I think the outcome is almost certainly clear.
Mirage go upstairs to Cocktail now, as this is a bomb site that has fallen out of favor statistically, especially as Cafe has received more and more play over the last couple seasons, /stages, /phases, /days, /playdays, /matches.
Thank you, Parker.
You're very welcome. I thought I would be as specific as possible in that instance.
You were perfectly specific.
So the problem with this bomb site is there's very limited room for error on defense. You can't really play below it as well as you want. You just kind of have to swing for the fences and hope that the attackers don't do exactly what they need to do. And right now that's working out, actually. Both Loading and Flynn credited with 2 kills. And that will blunt any momentum that Space Station had heading into this round. Fultz and Bosco are no more. That's 2 sets of grenades, or rather 1 set of grenades, 2 grenades in total from Fultz. A hammer would obviously be quite impactful, especially inside of Piano once it did get taken by SSG and opened up. Obviously, with these 2 deaths, it's not a given anymore that SSG is going to be able to take Piano at all. It wasn't a given before, but it's certainly less likely now.
Well, it seems like SSG has shifted their focus ever so slightly. They want to clear out below. Job done. Rampy will even get Quartz downstairs. So more than SSG bargained for. They just didn't want to get C4'd from underneath, and they won't. Now the clear into piano starts. Not going to be an easy one, but there's actually, yeah, that's a terrible start, as Rampy will swing on in. Thinking Nade will trade off onto loading, but now it's just Thinking Nade in the 1v3 as Zilchi shuts down Canadian in Cigar. Wide swing on New Balk. He hears the Maestro over by Cocktail, C3 specifically. He's aware he can't peek that angle. The shield makes this oh so difficult. All of the shields really are making this difficult. This is where the Jaeger ban would typically matter a lot, but because of those early frags, SSG just didn't have the utility for it. They lost their Zofia, so it wasn't an option. He'll rotate over to the White Staircase. This is actually an even more difficult challenge, and Mirage knows it's happening. What a one fight, though, for Thinking Nades. Flynn really should have taken that one with the shotgun. Only 10 bullets in the magazine, though. He will get the cross. That cross is given away by the Malusi. And in this position, Bathroom, he really can't do a lot of work. The vault is heard. This is being called out. Still only 10 bullets to find 2 kills. It would be incredible if it happened, but with such little HP, it's unlikely. And he won't even get the first. Silent will shut him down. I guess you could say silence that round, and Mirage keep it alive.
The moment that I saw Silent playing that angle, I knew it was over, because with how little HP that was in the hands of Thinking Nade, a single bullet would be his undoing, and that was the case. So, I mean, smartly played by Thinking Nade. He made the best, if I'm being honest, of a bad situation. You pointed out that losing the Zofia and Sledge early on was almost a fatal blow to that round for Space Station. Obviously, anything goes in this game. We've seen teams lose all of their utility. We've seen teams lose their hard breacher right off the hop and still manage to claw back and win a round. But I think for SSG, they tried to stick to the script, and, well, the script failed them because they didn't know where to go. So, another round for Mirage on the books, and obviously defense on Cafe working out better for Mirage so far. This map is far more comfortable than we saw on Coastline. I mean, the bar was so low that a single round for Mirage would have allowed us to make that statement, but I think we can confidently say that despite the fact that it's 6-3, Mirage have shown up significantly more. And in fact, if Mirage had started on defense, this could have been an entirely different map. Mirage obviously picked the map, though, so SSG got to choose, and they wanted to go to defense first. That's a smart play here on Cafe.
Yeah. I think for Mirage, you know, they're playing for, at this point on map 2, they're playing for something more than just the win, and I can admire that. I also have to respect the tenacity of Mirage for not completely folding at this point. So that is worth something. It's not, you know, it's not a pittance. It's not a consolation prize, or it definitely is a consolation prize, but it's something. And maybe even a map number 3 is on the line here, because yeah, Mirage has had moments of brilliance on Cafe, moments of catching off SSG, and well, I thought it was going to be one right there, but Silent misses his shot, and Foltz, while he does take some damage, will survive.
A slow start to this round so far, which has been characterized on this map with pretty quick action. Usually an early pick or two occurring in the first minute here, so I don't know if there's a definitive winner between these two teams as to whether or not there is nothing to be seen. I mean, allowing SSG to settle in and pull off their execute is definitely something that a lot of teams in North America and across the world have not enjoyed dealing with. But if Mirage have a pretty sound defense, then, well, they can be quite comfortable. And it is a kitchen defense, which, as was noted, is a perfect record for the defenders right now. Mirage won it in round number 7. They've completed the cycle. They're back here, but they are on match points, so they will need to go perfect on kitchen again, which would then make the site have a perfect record overall, as it would be locked for the remainder of the map. Silent gets double droned. I don't think he knew he got spotted, and he falls off. Court's now damaged from above as he's playing inside of Reading. There's an opening that's been created, and even more now as the Sledge of Fultz settles in upstairs. He needs to be very wary of this 1.5 sight on top of the Roni, as Quartz is not the type of player to miss those shots. Loading seems to have flown by the defense of SSG, or the rather, I guess they're on offense, but their defense, you know what I mean. Canadian gets picked off, but Quartz gets punished for it. So SSG finds even numbers yet again, but they'll need to grab the diffuser too.
Look at the diffuser eventually. It's on that top floor. All of the defenders have been forced down into the bottom floor. Silent by coat check. Loading will play a very dangerous angle over by tables. Flynn in the freezer. And the last defender, Zilchi, over by bakery. Down goes loading, playing that very dangerous angle as mentioned. Silent is also on a dangerous angle by the front door. If he gets droned out, he's another dead man. But as SSG gain the man advantage, they only have 20 seconds left to use it. That's not a lot of time, and they don't have the drones to gather all the information. Good check there from Rampy. He's thorough. Zilchi will get Bosco, though, so diffuser down. It's retrieved now by the Ash of Rampy, but there's no time really to get to the site. This is surely going to be a Mirage round. Nice cover there for Flynn, but he gets traded out. The plant is going down, and the final kill for Thinking Nade. SSG will take the series 2-0.
I want to call him the janitor, Michael, because he mopped up.
Yeah.
He mopped up.
He did.
He also had the Nook mop headgear on in a picture, and he went by the name.
Yeah,
the janitor.
He put it on his Twitter, I think.
Yeah, you can call him the janitor. Comes in and he mops up. Space Station, by the way, one step closer to the major as they topple Mirage 7-0, 7-3. Not the result that Mirage wanted. I'm certain of it, and Quartz went quiet after the rehost and through the second part of Cafe struggled to find the scoreboard as various members of his team had struggled in the original matches. That's certainly not the result that Mirage wanted. So they're going to be in the lower bracket. They'll play the loser of Disrupt versus the Sonics. And, well, you've got time to now try to recover and get out of your own head, as I'm sure they're probably very much in their own head right now.
Yeah, I would imagine they probably are, but that's it for us. There's nothing really more that Parker and I can talk about, and we'll go ahead and move it on. Catch you guys in a bit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was pretty much all she wrote for Mirage. The Spacestation Gaming stormed through him. But Jacob, you had something to say about what happened on the second round with Canadian. It was beautiful.
I did. So here we are, round 2. We kind of think he can swing Mirage's way. Wait, one. We didn't think he had that kill. One more on diffuser. One more with only 6 bullets left in the Vector. You do not peak that on 20 HP, my friend. That's not how this is supposed to work. SSG took that round and took the rest of Cafe to the bank. It took a little longer than Coastline did, but it's still in just as dominant a fashion.
Jacob, would you say that was peak performance by Mirage? Okay, somebody got to laugh at my joke, man. Come on. All right, Jesse, go ahead. I'm dead.
Just want to dig that deep?
All right. I mean, I'm okay. I just want to say I'm happy that Mirage were able to battle back a little bit on their defenses. You know, that was clearly a stronger side for them. It didn't matter in the end. They still lost it. I think 5-1 attacking is a little bit worse than what you can recover from, especially against a team like SSG. But you know what? They fought back and they showed some good rounds. So Mirage at least have some hope heading into their future matches, heading into their future, you know, even months as a team. There were at least bright spots on this map, which we didn't see on Coastline.
Yeah, so Jesse, you're talking about bright spots. There wasn't a lot of it for Mirage when it came to attacking and also securing kills. They got a lot of gunfights, but they were picked off a lot. Map number 1, we're talking about attack side of map number 2 as well. What happened? What went wrong?
I think there's 2 ways that you can really get kills as an attacker, right? First one is you can drone things out, and then you can push after your drone. You've got the info advantage. You know where they are. They might know which door you're coming from, but they don't know exactly when you're coming. They don't know what angle you're going to be using. You have the intel advantage. You should win that. That wasn't happening because the drones weren't spotting out Space Station players fast enough, right? Sometimes you'd see a drone go and a player follow up behind it. But the drone wouldn't cover the entire room for the player pushed in after that drone. So the roamers, whether it was Rampy or Bosco, would just jump on up and, you know, hit a shot just like that, and there would be really no follow-up. The second way you can do it is you can throw 2 players at an angle, right? The first guy might get the kill, he might die, but then at least there's the trade to come in afterwards, right? You've got that intel again, you're following up your teammate. But when we saw Mirage throw multiple players at one angle, almost always, they just lost multiple players. They didn't get the trade, they didn't manage to get that, you know, 1-for-1. they just fell apart. And we saw that when Canadian was downstairs in VIP. We saw that on the Roam. We saw that with Faults on the Maestro. I mean, there were just too many instances where Mirage were throwing everything at one player and then losing everything.
Throwing sounds about right. But Jacob, I'm going to switch things over to you, right? So okay, to start things off, people like me and some others out there, we believe that this match was decided the moment Mirage got into the lobby with Spacestation Gaming. But you, on the other end, you have a different point of view. You looked at the maps and you said, okay, this wasn't the right way to go about things for our #1 Canadian team, Mirage, right?
No, I didn't think that the way the battleground shaped out was going to work in Mirage's favor. I thought SSG had this pretty perfectly scouted, and then when we went to Cafe, it was kind of all she wrote at that point. We knew Coastline was a map that Mirage already had done statistically very well on. They were unbeaten. I think through the past couple of months, they had not lost on Coastline literally up until today. And then we hit to Cafe. That's a map SSG also historically has not done very well. They've lost it more than they've won it. They didn't play it all that often during the course of Stage 2 in the NAL. It's not something we're used to seeing from them, but they shore up their defenses. They make literally almost every round count. I'm disappointed because I thought Cafe was where Mirage could have had more of a spark of life, and we didn't get that. So if you'll pardon me for a second, this is a little bit of syrup that I grabbed from my kitchen just now, and this is one of Veli's patented trash cans. That was not the performance Mirage had to have.
Not the Canadians, man.
Nope. I will fall back
hurts.
on my phrase. That was a mercy killing from SSG.
It was bad. It was the game as a whole was really bad to me, right? Me specifically, I thought that 1v3 by Canadian almost knocked Flynn back into the casting booth. I didn't think that was a great move at all for Mirage and the rest of that roster. But Jesse, your boys, they're gonna be in a losers bracket now, and they might face off against Sonics or Disrupt Gaming. We saw them cause some upsets in the last qualifier. Do you think that Mirage is going to be able to just, put this behind them and come out on top in the losers bracket?
Listen, when I talked to Mirage, they kind of knew where they were at in this, grouping of 4 teams. They said, we're probably not going to beat Space Station, but I guarantee you we're not going to get last. That is from their mouths. I've got to trust them on that one. Because if they show up to that second matchup later today and they lose to Disrupt, they lose to Sonics, they're doing worse than they did in the first qualifier. They're letting the whole country down. So I'm going to give them some faith. I'm going to hope that they can pull things back. But at least now they have a little bit of a break. They can watch the next matchup and prepare, because they really do need to step it up if they don't want to end up getting 4th.
You're right. And on the flip side, the next matchup of the day, we have Disrupt going against Sonics. That's going to be a banger. That's the one I want to see the most, right? Jacob, Space Station now one step ahead, one step closer to the finals. Do you think that from what we saw just now against Mirage is enough to tell us that this team, they're back to their old ways, or do you think they haven't been really tested yet?
I don't think they've really had that much of an opportunity to showcase much difference. It was such a quick series that we didn't really get to see that much get showcased. I think once we head to map 2 and we see how Sonics and Mirage plays out, and then we begin to start tabulating, we start to estimate how will this team fare against this team, so forth. We're going to start putting predictions in our own head and be like, I think Space Station has it, or I think Mirage, there's literally no chance. I want to see how match 2 fares first before I start making those estimations, because once we know what the matchups look like, then it becomes way easier to be like, this team's going to win or this team's going to suck. So let's figure out how this one goes first.
I love the way you put it, Jacob. But ladies and gentlemen, game number 2, series number 2 ready for you. But before we do that, I'm going to send us over to a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon for Sonics against Disrupt Gaming.